My sister stole my identity, drained my savings, and left me hospitalized, but her darkest secret was still to come. It was early morning when I found out my own sister had stolen my identity. The email subject line read, "Notice of account closure, suspicious activity detected." My hands shook so badly I spilled my coffee all over the kitchen counter. Within minutes, I realized the savings I had spent 20 years building gone. Not misplaced. Not accidentally withdrawn. Stolen. And the thief wasn't a stranger, a hacker, or some shadowy figure overseas. It was Sarah, my sister. That moment split my life into before and after. Before, I thought family betrayal was something that happened to other people. After, I knew it was the kind of wound that crawled into your bones and rotted you from the inside. What led here was simple trust. I trusted Sarah too much. Trusted her with family passwords, trusted her with errands, trusted her because hell, she was my sister. We grew up in the same house, sharing the same sagging couch where we ate takeout pizza on Friday nights, the smell of fresh laundry from the dryer mixing with greasy cheese. I didn't think I needed to guard myself against her. But I was wrong. Back then the first sign wasn't obvious. It was a $234 utility bill in my name for her address. I brushed it off as an error. "Hey, sir," I said over the phone. "Weird thing, the power company thinks I live at your place." She laughed it off. "Oh, that's just a mix-up, I'll sort it." Her tone was too casual, but I wanted to believe her. See, before I had kids, Sarah was my closest confidante. I'd call her after bad dates, we'd split Uber rides home, we'd share family recipes. She was the one who helped me move into my first apartment at 24, carrying boxes at 2 a.m, swearing at the weight of my futon. Valeria, our cousin, got married in 2007, Sarah and I danced like idiots until our shoes broke. I thought we were unshakable. So when small red flags showed up, I convinced myself it was nothing. A credit card company calling about suspicious accounts. A random delivery of Amazon packages addressed to me but delivered to Sarah's building. I rationalized it all away. Because who thinks my sister is committing identity theft against me? Fast forward to moving day last year. That morning, the house smelled like detergent. I had done 3 loads of laundry, wanting my clothes fresh for the new place. Ari came over with bagels and we sat cross-legged on the floor, laughing about how awful my handwriting looked on the moving boxes. My mantle still held that one family photo, the only picture of all of us together since that bass. Mom's smile. Sarah's arm looped around me. I stared at it as I taped up the box, feeling nostalgic. I didn't know that picture would soon feel like a lie. First real gut punch came when I tried to pay movers and my debit card declined. Confused, I called the bank. The rep's voice was clipped. "Sir, your account is frozen due to fraudulent activity." My chest tightened. Fraudulent activity? I spent hours on the phone. My savings drained. New accounts, credit cards, loans all opened in my name. When I asked who had done it, they wouldn't say, but the mailing address linked to it. Sarah's. My breath caught in my throat. "No," I whispered into the empty house. No. I confronted Sarah that evening. It was one of those conversations burned into my skull forever. "Did you open accounts in my name?" I asked, gripping the phone so tight my knuckles went white. She paused, just a second too long. Then, "Harrison, don't be dramatic. Answer me." "You don't understand. I needed it. You're fine. You make more money than me. What's a few accounts?" Her voice was steady, almost annoyed, like I was a problem for catching her. That was the moment the ground shifted beneath me. My own sister had not only stolen from me, but justified it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept staring at the family photo on the mantel. My chest was heavy, my skin clammy. Every creak of the house made me sit up, heart racing, convinced someone was watching me. I had no words for it then, but I know now that was the start of the panic attacks. By sunrise, everything smelled like cardboard and detergent, boxes piled high, but inside I was unraveling. My sister had shattered my trust, and I hadn't even begun to see how deep the betrayal would go. Because Sarah's crime wasn't a one-time theft. It was a carefully spun web, one that would drag in neighbours, cousins, even strangers. And it wouldn't just cost me money. It would cost me my sanity. The days after moving day felt like living inside a fog. I'd wake up early morning, sweating from nightmares I couldn't fully remember, my chest pounding like I was about to be attacked. Every time the phone rang, I jolted like it was a gunshot. I kept telling myself it was just the stress of moving, but deep down, I knew it was Sarah's shadow crawling over everything. The red flags piled up faster than I could rationalise. First, my landlord called, furious about late rent payments, except I had never rented from him. When I demanded the paperwork, my name was on a lease. My name, my social security number, my signature even though I'd never stepped foot in the building. I called Sarah. "You've gone too far. You're signing leases in my name now." She sighed dramatically. "Harrison, you're overreacting. It's just paperwork. You'll get your money back." I laughed bitterly. "Get it back. It's my credit score. My future. This isn't some casual favour." Silence. Then she hung up. Before I had kids, I used to think I was untouchable. I had a decent career, a supportive group of friends, even a reputation at work for being the stable one. Now, my boss pulled me aside one morning. "Look, Harrison, I don't want to embarrass you, but someone called HR pretending to be you, asking about your paycheck details." I felt heat rise up my neck. "Who?" He gave me a pitying look. "We traced it back to your sister's number." My world tilted. Sarah wasn't just stealing my money, she was dismantling my identity, brick by brick. That's when Ari stepped in. My cousin has always had this quiet wisdom about her, the kind that makes you feel grounded just by sitting across from her. She came over with Thai takeout one evening, plopping down cartons of pad thai and spring rolls on the bare kitchen counter. You look like hell, she said gently. I can't sleep, I admitted. I keep seeing her face. Every time I try to rest, I imagine Sarah opening another account, another lie, another mess. Aria reached across the table, her hand warm on mine. You're not crazy. This is real. She's manipulating you, but you're not alone. For the first time in weeks, I cried. Not the quiet kind, ugly, chest-heaving sobs. Aria just sat there, letting me unravel. But the betrayals kept coming. One night, I glanced out my living room window and noticed my neighbour Jim, the guy who always borrowed my lawnmower, standing in his yard. Phone raised, angled toward my heart. My stomach dropped. The next morning, I confronted him. Were you recording me last night? His eyes darted away. Look, man, Sarah paid me to keep an eye on you, said you were unstable. My vision tunneled. Unstable? He shrugged. She gave me cash. I didn't think it was a big deal. Not a big deal. My own neighbour had been spying on me through my windows, bought off by my sister. The walls of my home suddenly felt like glass. By then, my depression medication had stopped working entirely. I'd been on the same dose for years, but now it was like swallowing sugar pills. My therapist, Dr. Lang, told me gently during one of our sessions. Harrison, chronic betrayal trauma can change how your brain responds to medication. It rewires your thinking. You're in fight or flight mode all the time. I nodded numbly, staring at the floor. I feel like my skin doesn't fit anymore. Because your safety net was ripped away, she said. But you're not broken, you're injured, and injuries can heal. Her words should have comforted me. Instead, they made me realize how far I had fallen. Meanwhile, Sarah doubled down. She posted vague, venomous statuses on Facebook. Funny how some people play victim when they've always been the problem. Soon after, I noticed relatives unfriending me. My aunt blocked me. Then my cousins. By the end of the week, half my family had cut me off on every platform. I confronted Aria. Why are they doing this? She sighed. Because Sarah's spinning the story first. She's telling everyone you're dangerous, unstable, maybe even violent, and people, they want to believe the easiest version. I felt like I was drowning. Not only was Sarah stealing my identity, but she was erasing me socially too, turning me into a ghost in my own family. Final straw came one morning when I opened my mailbox and found a letter from a bank I'd never used. It wasn't a bill, it was a rejection notice. Loan application denied. My chest caved in as I read the amount, $120,000. Sarah had tried to take out a six-figure loan in my name. I dropped the letter on the kitchen floor and stared at the family photo still sitting on the mantel. I used to see love in that picture. Now all I could see was betrayal. That was the morning I realized this wasn't just financial theft. It was psychological warfare. And I had no idea just how dark Sarah's web of lies really was. The morning I found a ledger felt like a punch. It was 5:12 a.m., October 9, 2024. I had woken from a nightmare of the family photo tearing off the mantel, and I found a manila envelope behind unpaid bills. Inside was Sarah's handwriting, names, addresses, dates, and dollar amounts. An entry read, 128 Maple Street at 3B Alone 10/1/24 $120,000 Harrison. Nearby, utility switch $234 Harrison's act done. Jin's name appeared with window watch $50/week. Another line said, spouse deception check records 421 6/12/99. Area arrived with cold coffee and soggy takeout pizza. We printed public records at 3:08 p.m. and found 3 marriage certificates across counties bearing my name. One showed my birthday, another carried a signature close to mine. I felt my stomach drop. Someone had weaponized my life. Detective Rees, badge 4421, came at 8:45 p.m. He took the ledger and said, we've seen her pattern in 3 counties, she's been doing this for years. I asked how many victims there were. Several, he replied. We're still finding them. Jim confessed, ashamed. Sarah paid me to watch your windows, $50 a week. My neighbour had been spying through my curtains. The house that smelled of fresh laundry and pizza grease felt transparent. My antidepressant stopped working entirely. Sleep dissolved into nightmares. Mornings arrived with a pounding heart and a cold sweat. I had a panic attack on the subway at 7:20 a.m. My hands went numb and I vomited into a garbage bin. I texted Dr. Lang from the station. I can't breathe. She answered, come in. Bring everything. In therapy, she named the betrayal trauma, explained how chronic stress rewires the nervous system, added EMDR, and scheduled twice-weekly sessions while adjusting my medication. Socially, Sarah spun a story that painted me unstable. Relatives blocked me on Facebook and Instagram. On October 21, 2024, HR called me into a private room and said, someone phoned pretending to be you. We had to verify. My contractor refused to sign a contract until my identity situation was cleared. My barrister stopped asking how my weekend was. Strangers crossed the street rather than pass my building. Rumours whispered that I'd been reckless. The ledger showed I had been manipulated. The pages revealed bank routing numbers next to forged ID, cash payments to a notary, transfers to accounts I did not recognise, $300 here, $1,200 there. One line read, cover, spouse X3 public humiliation risk. I realised the scope. Loans, forged signatures, pride neighbours, marriages recorded in my name. Detective Rees warned against confronting every name. We have subpoenas out, he said. Let us handle it. But rumour moved faster than subpoenas. By November, the family WhatsApp had split into accusations and silence. Cousins who once joined our Thanksgiving had blocked me. Someone had shared a doctored email Sarah had fabricated to make me look volatile. Comments were merciless. He needs help. Stay away. Hypervigilance set in. I counted cars on the street to calm my mind. I locked curtains and checked doors multiple times. Dr. Lang taught grounding exercises. Name 5 things you can see, 4 you can physically touch, 3 you can hear. It helped for a few minutes, then the spirals returned. The betrayal rewired how I thought about intimacy. Even Aria's reassurances landed with a metallic tang. Police files trickled in. On November 3, Detective Ruiz told me the ledger linked to other probes and that some entries suggested involvement with fraud rings operating for decades. The phrase possible organised crime connections made my private betrayal feel suddenly like a criminal landscape. I reread pages until the ink blurred and the family photo on the mantel felt staged. Each name in the ledger was a small earthquake. The theft had cost me more than money, reputation, safety, the easy trust that let me fall asleep. Subpoenas moved out, banks froze accounts, and I learned that Sarah had methodically mapped lives and sold pieces of them. The ledger was not simply a list of transactions, it was an architecture of lies built under our feet. I emerged broken, determined to fight and to rebuild again. Graduation day was supposed to be simple. Aria's youngest was walking across the stage, cap and gown too big, smile shining like sunlight. The auditorium smelled faintly of cafeteria lasagna and floral polish. Rows of folding chairs squeaked as family shifted, whispering with pride. I had promised myself to sit quietly, to clap politely, to keep the chaos of my life outside this building. But then Sarah walked in. She swept down the aisle like she owned the place, her perfume cutting through the air, wearing a smirk that made my chest burn. She slid into the row ahead of me, close enough that I could see the gold bracelet she bought with my drained savings. People greeted her warmly, unaware that the woman hugging them had left me hospitalized for panic attacks. Aria leaned toward me, whispering, "Ignore her, today's not the day." But I couldn't. My pulse was pounding so loudly I couldn't hear the names being called. All I could see was the ledger in my bag, the proof of her crimes. And all I could think was, they need to know. When the applause died down after the final name, I stood. My knees shook. "Excuse me," I said, voice catching. "I need to say something." The microphone squealed as I reached the podium. Parents stared. Students froze mid-step. "My name is Harrison," I began, my voice steadier than I felt. "And I can't sit silent anymore." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Sarah hissed from her seat, "Sit down, Harrison. Don't do this." But I pressed forward, the ledger pages trembling in my hand. This woman, my sister, had stolen my identity, my savings, and my safety. She opened accounts in my name, drained my bank, and even paid neighbours to spy on me. People murmured. A mother clutched her child closer. "And it doesn't stop there," I said, my throat raw. "She forged marriages under my name, multiple, 3 that I know of. She has built decades of lies, crimes that extend far beyond me. The police are involved." The auditorium erupted. Some parents gasped audibly, others stood up in confusion. Aria's hands were clasped at her mouth, tears in her eyes. Sarah leapt up, face red, spitting venom. "He's insane, he's lying, look at him, he's unstable." But for once, the whispers weren't in her favour. People turned to her with suspicion. One father shouted, "Is this true?" Sarah snapped, "Of course not," but her voice cracked. I slammed the ledger on the podium. "These are her records, names, dates, transactions. She's been caught before. This isn't just family drama, it's a trail of crime." The weight of silence fell heavy. Then, in the back, a voice said quietly but firmly, I recognised that handwriting. Heads turned. It was one of Sarah's old co-workers. His face was pale. She used to forge invoices at our office. The crowd shifted. Parents whispered. One mother pulled out her phone. "Should we call the police?" Sarah bolted for the exit. I didn't chase her. My legs felt like lead. The room spun. I leaned against the podium, every nerve buzzing. I had just torn my family apart in public. Ari rushed to my side. "Harrison, are you okay?" I shook my head. Tears blurred my vision. "No, but they finally know." Behind me, students whispered. Parents argued, and faculty tried to calm the chaos. But the truth was out. The web Sarah had woven was unravelling thread by thread right there on a high school stage. The fallout was immediate. Some relatives left in disbelief, storming out of the auditorium without looking at me. Others came up afterward, voices low, apologising for believing Sarah's lies. But many stayed silent, their eyes avoiding mine, too uncomfortable to take a side. That night, I went home to a house that smelled like stale cardboard and detergent, the family photo still on the mantel. For the first time, I didn't see it as a memory. I saw it as evidence, a picture of trust shattered. The dramatic climax had come, but the real war was just beginning. Because Sarah didn't vanish quietly. She was planning her next move, and I was about to face the darkest stretch of my life. The night after the graduation confrontation, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Sarah's face twisting with rage as she stormed out of the auditorium. My body buzzed with adrenaline, but underneath was a gnawing dread. What would she do next? By early morning, I was pacing the kitchen floor, staring at the $234 utility bill still pinned to the fridge. My savings were gone, my accounts frozen, my family divided. The house smelled faintly of detergent, but the air was thick with something else fear. At 7:03 a.m., I collapsed. My heart raced out of rhythm, my arms went numb, and I thought, this is it. I'm dying. Aria found me on the floor, gasping, tears streaming down my face. She called 911. At the hospital, Dr. Vrentas hooked me to monitors and finally told me, "You've had a severe panic attack." I wanted to argue it felt like a heart attack, but deep down, I knew. Sarah's betrayal had rewired me. My nervous system was stuck in fight or flight. The following weeks blurred into a haze of medication adjustments and therapy appointments. Dr. Lang sat across from me in her softly lit office, a diffuser filling the air with lavender. "You are not weak," she said as I clutched at tissue, hands trembling. "Your body is reacting to chronic betrayal. This isn't just financial theft, it's psychological." I can't trust anyone," I admitted. My voice cracked. "I keep waiting for people to hurt me, even you." She nodded, unflinching. That's what happens when your safety net is torn. We'll work on rebuilding trust, slowly, but for now, focus on survival. Meanwhile, Sarah unleashed a smear campaign. She called relatives, sobbing into the phone. Harrison's mentally ill, he needs help, he's dangerous. Soon, cousins who once sent me holiday cards blocked me on every platform. My aunt posted a vague Facebook status. Sometimes the ones who scream the loudest are the ones hiding the most. It got 47 likes. I felt erased. Walking into the grocery store, I'd overheard whispers. Isn't that the guy who ruined his sister's life? At work, colleagues avoided eye contact. HR handed me a written warning about professional reputation concerns. Everywhere I went, I was contaminated by Sarah's lies. The nightmares grew darker. I dreamt of standing on a stage while Sarah ripped the family photo from my hand and tore it into pieces. I'd wake at 3:11 a.m. Drenched in sweat, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. Sleep became a battlefield. One night, I woke to the sound of gravel crunching outside. My skin prickled. I peeked through the curtains and saw a figure Jim, my neighbour, lurking near the driveway again. Even after confessing, he was still under Sarah's sway. My chest seized. I grabbed the phone, dialing Area with shaking fingers. She wouldn't stop, I whispered. She'll never stop. Area's voice was steady. She's unraveling, Harrison. She's desperate, but you're not alone. Her words were a lifeline, but they felt fragile, like they could snap under the weight of Sarah's obsession. The lowest point came in December. My therapist increased my antidepressant dose, but it backfired. The side effects left me nauseous, dizzy, and numb. I sat in the living room one night, staring at the mantel. Family photo mocked me. I thought about how peaceful it would be to just not wake up. But then I noticed something. In the photo, Mom's smile wasn't about Sarah. It was about all of us, about love that existed before betrayal. That thought, tiny, fragile, kept me from spiraling further. On New Year's Eve, I found myself sitting alone, listening to distant fireworks. I realized I had lost nearly everything: money, reputation, relationships, even my own sense of safety. My trust was a hollow shell. But rock bottom has a strange quality. It clarifies. You stop asking why me and start asking what now. When I looked at the ledger again, I didn't just see destruction. I saw evidence. Proof. A weapon I could wield, not just for myself, but for others. Sarah had tried to erase me. But what if I used the very story she wrote in my name to build something new? That night, under the crackle of fireworks, I made a vow. I would not die in this shadow. I would find a way to turn this agony into armor. Recovery wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a lightning bolt or some cinematic epiphany. It was slow, uneven, like learning to walk after your bones had been shattered. January mornings started with therapy instead of coffee. Dr. Lang pushed me to rebuild routine: shower, dress, leave the house. Structure is survival, she said. Some days I managed it. Other days, I stayed in bed until noon, my chest heavy with dread. Still, I kept showing up. Area was my anchor. She drove me to appointments, dropped off home-cooked meals, and reminded me that my worth wasn't erased by Sarah's lies. One evening, over a heated takeout pizza, she said, "You know you're not the only one this has happened to." "What do you mean?" I asked, wiping sauce from my chin. Identity theft, financial betrayal, family turning their backs. There are others. I've read about them online. They need someone who understands. Her words lodged in me like a seed. I went to bed that night and dreamt not of Sarah, but of a room filled with people who got it, who didn't look at me with suspicion, but with recognition. In March, I joined a support group for survivors of financial. The first time I walked into the church basement, the smell of fresh laundry clung to the folding chairs and the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. I wanted to bolt. But then a woman spoke about her own brother draining her accounts, and I felt less alone. Sharing my story was terrifying. My voice cracked, my hands shook, but people nodded. They didn't whisper, didn't avoid eye contact. They understood. Afterward, a man patted my shoulder. "You should think about leading one of these someday. You've got fire." I laughed bitterly. "I've got trauma." "Sometimes that's the same thing," he replied. By summer, my health stabilized. New medication worked better. Panic attacks still came, but I could breathe through them with grounding exercises Dr. Lang taught me. Nightmares faded from nightly to occasional. I even started jogging again at 6 a.m., feeling the cool air in my lungs instead of dread. And slowly, an idea grew. What if I created a non-profit? Not just a support group, but a structured place for people betrayed by family, partners, or friends to reclaim their lives. I spent July drafting plans at my kitchen table, paper spread everywhere. The family photo was still on the mantle, but now it wasn't a trigger, it was fuel. A reminder of why this mattered. By September 2025, Reclaim Trust Foundation was registered as a non-profit. Our mission: to support victims of financial and identity betrayal. Eri joined as co-founder. We launched a website, organised Zoom groups, and built partnerships with local therapists. The first workshop we held was on October 14, 2025, in a rented community centre. 20 people came. One woman sobbed as she described her husband secretly taking out loans in her name. A man talked about his mother draining his college fund. I listened, I nodded, I told them, I know what it feels like to have your very identity stolen by someone you loved, but you're not broken, you're injured, and injuries can heal. When I said that, I realised I was repeating Dr. Lang's words. Passing them forward. Transforming them into light. Sarah, of course, didn't vanish. She was eventually investigated more deeply thanks to Detective Reese's persistence. There were hearings, court documents, subpoenas, her darker secrets surfacing one by one. I didn't get every dollar back, but money wasn't the point anymore. The point was this: she didn't get to define me. Yes, relatives still keep me blocked. Some probably still believe Sarah's version. But I've stopped needing their validation. My life isn't measured by their whispers anymore. It's measured by the people who walk into our foundation's doors with shattered trust and walk out holding a piece of it again. Today, I'm 42. My house smells of fresh laundry again, not few. Family photo still sits on the mantle, but now is framed in a new light, not as proof of betrayal, but as a reminder of resilience. I trusted Sarah with my life, and she tried to ruin it completely. But instead of destroying me, her betrayal forced me into something new. I survived. I rebuilt. And now I spend every day making sure others can too. The shadow of Sarah's lies may linger, but so does the fire she accidentally lit in me. And that fire is helping others rise from their own ashes.